Hello everyone, my name is Jeff Stevens. I am Business Director with ICP, and with me today I have Mike Lucas, Design Director at Cineplex. Together we are at the Henry Stewart Creative Operations Conference in San Diego, and we welcome you. So Mike, you had a terrific session this morning talking about in creative operations, sharing your experience over the years building the in-house agency at Cineplex and many of the successes that you've seen through that journey. What would you say are key to the successes that you've seen there?
That's a good question, Jeff. I guess for me, the few key pieces that are really important have probably been building a lot of trust with a lot of the colleagues that we work with day in, day out, and making sure that we're delivering solutions that are working for the organization creatively. And from the in-house perspective, the other one that's really important is that we're able to measure and provide value to the organization through the things that we measure and track through the creative process.
And that's great. So how big would you say the size of your stakeholder group is? How many people are you supporting throughout Cineplex?
We have around 20 or so areas of the company that we support on a day-to-day basis for the most part.
Okay, that's great. And when you think about working with the stakeholders there and the importance of metrics and data, what are the key metrics and data that you think are important in influencing their decisions?
I think some of the biggest areas that we spend most of our time looking at is ultimately how much time we spend for each one of those different departments, and making sure that they're each adequately being supported enough for their own goals, but also with the context of what the organization's overall goals are as well. So that's definitely one of the biggest ones that we look at is essentially where we're spending our time, and is it still aligning with our corporate priorities.
Okay. So when looking at metrics and the KPIs and mining the data that is talking about the case and the value for the creative operations process, do you have any challenges tracking the data, or do you have any tricks for really managing effective data?
Gotcha. For us, we do manage all of our data through a single work platform system. Which is great, so it kind of ties the work and the hours that we put into different projects and allows us to distribute the information in whichever way or format that we'd like. In terms of getting the data there, I think data hygiene has been really important for us and an area of focus for the last year. At the end of the day, you want to be able to make sure that you trust and rely on the information that the system is exporting for you in those reports, and that's been taking a lot of housekeeping. So frequent checks. I actually have a regular calendar appointment on the 28th of a month to make sure that I'm looking at all of the reports before the end of the month to make sure that I can optically see any anomalies. If I know that a number is seeming either really soft or really high, I can either take a deeper dive and make sure that the project work was actually reflective of that. And so I think for me, hygiene of the data is most likely the most important part, to make sure that what you export is trustworthy for the stakeholders that you're sharing it with. And fundamentally, that data is so important for an in-house team that it's one that we want to make sure that we're spending the right time on.
Absolutely, and then the confidence that gives you as you're presenting numbers to people that this is good information.
Yeah, exactly. You don't want to be in any kind of meeting and have to talk about assumptions or to speak to a certain percentage point if you don't really know. 49% versus 59% can still make a very big difference in a lot of areas.
Absolutely, especially when you're talking in dollars.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
All right, so I want to look here because I've got a quote. So you described the demands of the creative operations team as ever changing, and absolutely we could see that. But you said that there are about just as many plot twists as in the latest Hollywood blockbuster, which I think is great. How do you, as a group, stay abreast of new developments in creative ops?
Yeah, we get the most out of learning through events like these, and a few other events is probably one of the biggest ways that we try and stay on top of trends and seeing what's happening in the industry. And then we also still actively participate both locally and through webinars with either some community groups, some associations, and even things like webinars about new product launches with Adobe and things like that are probably some of the ways that we try and make sure that we're staying on top of some of those elements.
Mm-hmm.
The second piece that we also do is with our partners and colleagues that we work with, both throughout the organization but also externally. We also want to always keep an open dialogue about things that are changing and their impacts. And the one that's probably got the biggest impact for us is probably in the social media space.
Right.
And so that's where one that keeps evolving the marketing needs and responding to those.
Yeah. Do you think that the advances in your space have, is the velocity greater now than maybe it was 5-10 years ago? Is it harder to keep up now?
I think day to day we're seeing a lot more, I guess, news and information about different things. But I think that's kind of systematically kind of everything and not just in a media space. So I think factually it's certainly a lot more in the last 5 to 10 years and increasing in speed. But I don't think it's an anomaly versus everything else that's happening in many different industries. But I think it's also a little fun to kind of keep watching and, seeing what happens with one platform or another product and growing with it. I think I'm still the only one at the office that's been watching TicToc videos, and people are kind of wondering, why are you watching that? But you kind of need to stay on top of things.
Absolutely. No, thank you. That's great. So, Mike, changing gears a little bit. So you've been building the in-house agency at Cineplex for about 10 years now.
Yeah,
Okay.
just shy of 10.
Yeah. So during that time, what would you say has been some of the biggest challenges?
I think we've had a few things that have always been interesting. Wanting to make sure that we properly communicate a shared vision for a strong creative has been an evolving discussion, and one that we love taking our stakeholders through and trying to keep on that journey.
Right.
And making sure that we're elevating the work consistently, and that's through a product of many different ways of how we work with them, how we ideate with them, how we share and collaborate. And I think the second piece has actually been building out an entire process system essentially from scratch. And I think along the way we've learned a ton. We're still really excited about what's ahead. And that's, but every day, you encounter a new scenario that makes you kind of double back and have another look at and see how could your process be improved to make sure that in the future it can be better and easier.
Oh, that's great. It sounds like you're often in a state of fine-tuning now, which is a great place to be.
Yes, yeah, definitely. It's always a fine-tuning game. Yeah.
So, looking back, if you could have any do-overs over the last 10 years, if you could do anything different, would there be anything?
I think if I was to do something in the past a little bit differently, I don't think the journey is wrong. I'd still hop and probably do many of the same things in the same kind of process or evolution. But I do believe it would be really, if I could go back, I'd probably start working with some of our stakeholders and building trust with them a little bit earlier than we've been working through that piece.
Okay.
Making sure that that we're able to provide good rationale and solutions, being able to communicate that and making sure that they're also part of that journey, and making it collaborative versus just an in-house creative team that just presents ideas and expect either a yes or a no.
Oh, that's great. That's some valuable lessons learned, some good insight.
Yeah.
What's next for Cineplex's in-house agency?
I think for us, we still want to finesse and tweak some of our processes. I don't think that we still have some good progresses that we've made so far, but we still have a little bit more to go. And I think for us, it's pretty much staying on top of the way that we consume media. So, and making sure that the creative solutions that we're putting forward really do have more meaningful connections with people. I know that there's been talk throughout today around this a little bit, but I think making sure that we've got the right message at the right time for the right person, and making sure that we're putting that strategic thinking for that audience is going to be really important for us and the way that we purchase our media buys.
And that's great. Now, there has been a lot of great discussion today around the future, eyes on the future. Your talk this morning included was also very insightful about your journey and how you've built your in-house creative operation. So I want to thank you again for that, Mike, very much. And thank you for being here today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Jeff.
Of course. And thank you, everyone, for watching.